Hi everyone, this is a 3 o'clock concert, but an earlier pre-concert dialogue for the Conservatory Series concert featuring the Escher Quartet and members of CMC. We just have a few questions for you and everything, and to start it off, how exactly were you guys formed?
Basically, the four original members, we met at the Manhattan School of Music in New York, and we were all doing different programs there. The three of us kind of knew each other beforehand and wanted to play together, and we actually asked the school for violist recommendation, which is a dangerous idea. But we lucked out and they suggested Pierre, and he was there to do his doctorate, so he didn't have to do any chamber music, but he happily agreed to start and do, just rehearse a little bit. And we weren't going to be serious at first. We actually were lucky enough to be assigned to coach with David Sawyer from the Guarneri Quartet. So I think that's actually, he really, kicked our butts and got us into shape, and just the experience of coaching with him really convinced us that we wanted to stay together and make it work as a quartet, so that's how we're still together.
We started like a little bit like a class, but then it turned out to become our profession.
Yeah, for years and years and years.
It's a black hole.
No, we're very happy.
Do you have a favorite quartet memory?
Memory or member?
Memory.
That would be a better question.
Well, that too, but...
Member easily. I mean, I think they all love me. Memory.
Are you your own favorite
Yes,
quartet
of
member?
course. I'm the only one I don't argue with.
I see.
I am the most recent member. I joined a year and a half ago, and so my bank of memories is obviously quite a bit shorter than what's available to my other three colleagues. I don't know. I've enjoyed a great deal of our experiences together, and I would be at this point very hard pressed to single one out. There are moments actually that I savor. There are moments when we've been playing. There are some pieces that suit our style. If we're playing the Elgar Quartet, if we're playing a late Beethoven Quartet, yeah, there are moments there that I would like to hold on to for a very long time.
The best moment for me is when we start, like 4 years after we started, we did the Chamber Music Society 2 at Lincoln Center, and that's you need to win an audition for that. That's pretty much the first thing that we won, because we tried a lot of competitions before, but it was not successful. And then at the end, the culmination of that 3 years residency is a concert in Alice Tully Hall, and we came up with a pretty bold program. And back then, even we were like playing standing up, and the program we were playing was like not the cellists, but like the three upper. And we were playing like the piece by Zemlinsky, the second quartet, which is like almost like if Mahler had written the quartet, it would probably be along those lines similar. And then we also played the Schubert G major string quartet, which is a huge work as well. So those
two other pieces.
Two other pieces. And so it was a really bold program. I remember like I'd reserved like a ticket for David Sawyer because he was our, like Adam said, our first coach, but he could not come. But I was going to remember, because after that concert, we played a pretty good concert. I was happy about how it went. And I got a phone call from, a voicemail actually, because my phone was off. It said it was David Sawyer. Like, I'm sorry I could not make it, but I'm sure you guys played great, and I'll read it in the review.
Well, he was also in his 80s at the time.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And but the thing is, he died like shortly after that, maybe like 6 months afterwards. Yeah. So to me, it really like.
I have a kind of a funny memory. We were actually driving down to Stony Brook because we were in residence there alongside the Emerson Quartet for a couple of years, and we were driving and we had this rental van, and all of our stuff was in the back, in the trunk. And we were driving along, and suddenly we kind of hit a bump, and the trunk popped open. And thankfully, we stopped quickly. None of the instruments fell out. Everything was fine. But my binder of music fell out of the car, and it exploded. So there was just this whirlwind of sheet music, and we all jumped out of the van on the side of a pretty busy road and ran around grabbing sheet music. And I still we recovered every last sheet of it. And some of my music still has tire tracks on it.
The Haydn Sunrise, I think.
Yeah, but that was funny.
What made you decide to form a quartet? Or just to start with chamber music?
Well, I think we probably all have very different reasons. Me personally, not to just be talking the whole time. But for me, it's something that I've always wanted to do since I was 12 or 13 actually. I didn't just want to be a violinist, I wanted to be in a quartet. And I think probably the audience here is probably familiar with the Cavani Quartet. And I was lucky enough to coach with Annie when I was like 11, Annie Fuller, the first violinist, and I actually coached with them a lot after that, and probably until I was like 15 or 16. And they really taught me chamber music. That was the only experience I had with it. And I think that actually really carried me into the field of chamber music and made me want to do it.
For me, I'll try to be brief. I always liked to play with other people. I used to play in the band when I was a teenager. I was playing bass, electric violin, mandolin. I always liked that aspect. But I didn't like playing in orchestra that much, especially viola. But I don't like playing solo either. So for me, like, chamber music was the perfect outlet, and I like that amount of people all look forward to it.
Well, I mean, I've been in the quartet now for going on 4 years, and so I wasn't the original cellist. But I guess my reasons for joining were simply that I saw an opportunity to play with some great musicians and to have some gainful employment out of school, and then continuing. I think kind of a good extension to your question is that continuing in a string quartet, as with anything, is a kind of a constant recommitment. You have to be really committed to it, and you have to commit to it for the long haul. But that it goes in ups and downs, and you have to kind of ride out the waves together and keep recommitting. So it's kind of an ongoing decision, I think, to play in a quartet. You don't just decide and then you're in a quartet and you stay. It's like you make it part of your life because you always want it to be.
And what about you?
Well, first of all, I didn't decide to form a quartet. I have a different trajectory in a sense from my colleagues. I had done a great deal of chamber music when I was out of school, and then I got married and had a beautiful little baby by my beautiful wife, and I no, not me. And at that time, I was invited to take a concertmaster position in Arizona, which I did. Mind you, I had done a great deal of chamber music, and but I thought, well, that's enough of that, and I moved to Arizona with great joy and enjoyed playing, being concertmaster and playing concerti and playing all this incredible orchestral music. And then after a couple seasons, I realized that particular situation wasn't going to grow. It was not going to grow my career, but nevertheless, I had learned a great deal, but it was time to move on. And so I came back to New York. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had a fiddle to pay for, I had a family to pay for, and I just met Dane purely by chance at a festival in Bridgehampton, and he asked if I would be interested in reading with the quartet. And in fact, my initial answer was no, thank you, because not because I had anything against it, but I felt that I had done it and was doing something quite different now. I was on a sort of concertmaster track. And then I spoke to somebody who all of you might know, Mr. Masumi Rasted, who's the violist of the Pacifica Quartet. And he's a very, very dear friend of mine, and I called him weeks after I declined their offer, and he said, so what's new? And I said, well, I met a nice fellow at Bridgehampton, and he asked me to read with the Escher Quartet. He said, well, what did you say? I said, well, I said no. And he said, what are you, stupid? He said, call them back or email them. So I emailed them, and we had one very, very brief reading. I left the country, and that was it. They invited me. And I have to say, it's worked very well. And I have never, ever regretted it. And I was reminded in doing this that, in fact, as great as the orchestral repertoire is, and it is great as the Missa Solemnis of Beethoven is, or the Ninth Symphony, the quartets are greater. As great as all of the orchestral music is, the stuff that's written by those same people for quartet it manages to be even greater. And it's a more special experience.
So it sounds like you've always had your sights kind of set on chamber music, but how did you first kind of get started or introduced to music in general?
Well, me, I have a twin sister, him too actually, but that's another thing. And she was playing violin. We started violin, and so from a very young age, I started playing duets with her. So I was always like somehow playing chamber music in that way, and I always liked it a little bit better for some reason. Maybe because of that, I don't know.
I think I started with something called kinder music, which was basically sort of banging on some things, and then I started piano when I was 4 or something, I think 3, something like that. And then I guess there was a little girl that came to one of my preschool classes or something, and she played violin, and I guess I was impressed with her, and my mother happened to be there too, and she found out that there was a very good violin teacher in the area, and she basically said, oh, why don't you start violin? And I was just a little malleable kid, so I said, okay, you know. And I practiced a lot when I was really young. When I was like 5, she would practice with me for like 3 hours. I don't know why. Anyway, I guess we both enjoyed it, so that's really kept me going to the present day.
And in high school, did you have any programs like CMC or like?
No, nothing like this. No chamber music.
Nothing. I mean, this is a special program. Accepting us. I mean, you've had obviously you've been lucky to have some very, very truly great guests come to spend, seems like, intimate time with you and coaching and studying and everything. I don't know any other programs. I mean, I'm not aware of any other programs quite like that. You're very lucky to have it, and the community is very lucky to have it.
Yeah.
Not a more confusing question, but what are your favorite pieces? Like, what is your favorite piece to play as a quartet, each individually? It's a tough one.
It's a toughie.
I probably prefer playing the Beethoven string quartets. Just any of them. I'm fine with any of them.
They're good enough for you?
Yeah.
I don't really have a good answer to that. I guess I'll give the cliched answer, which is anything that we're playing at the time. But I think that is true. I mean, it has to sort of be your favorite. You have to be very present.
Yeah, I really like playing Mozart because in some way he doesn't put that many markings, so you have to be inventive a little bit. But on the other hand, you're kind of restricted. But I think, to me, playing string quartets by Mozart, I really enjoyed. Maybe because he was a violist and because he probably wrote for himself a good part, and maybe I'm biased because of that. But I do like Mozart.
I don't have an answer to that I'm comfortable with, because I profoundly love a very large number of pieces that we play. I don't actually, and to be fair, to give us another side of Adam's coin, I don't always love what we're playing, by the way, but that I do try to find it interesting, or find some way to get myself into it. But I don't always love. But there are pieces that I love that's almost too personal in a way. And I wouldn't want to choose one. It's like asking for your favorite child, and they're not my favorite.
For you, it's easy. Huh?
Yeah,
I only
who's your
have
favorite
one.
child?
My daughter's my favorite.
Oh, Dane, has anyone ever told you that you look like James Franco?
Well, you told me that yesterday. Aside from that, no, I've never heard that.
I've often been told I look like Brad Pitt, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see that. I see it.
It's sort of a sneer on their face.
Yeah.
I think that
That wraps it up.
Thank
You
you.
ended on that question.
Yeah, that was a really
Good finisher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having
Thanks,
us.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.